you so much for staying tuned to us. This is Tea or Coffee. Major thank you to Newspaper Review for giving us what's happening on the dailies. Now it's time for us to get back into the conversation we started this morning on mental health. Now, we started with a story of a therapist that found out that she needed a therapist when she attempted to commit suicide. We're not going to be having this conversation alone. We already have our special guest in the studio, and he's a friend of the family. We have Sheo Dosumo with us. Good morning, Sheo.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing? It's good to always have you around.
Always good to be here to discuss important conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheo is a mental health advocate, and this morning we'll be breaking down this conversation on mental health. Now, we know how big you are on mental health conversations. In fact, you've invited us so many times to different mental health conversations that we have learned so much. We must first say thank you for all that you do for everyone around the world. We really appreciate you. Yeah. I think it's really a good one because, people don't know how important mental health conversations are. People don't know how important awareness is. Until I faced certain situations myself, I didn't understand. I was like, they've started again with all this noise that they're making and everything. And then now I realized that, awareness is so important, and you've been doing it. So tell us, this whole mental health advocacy journey, how has it been for you?
I would say it's been interesting because, starting with a concept that is unclear to people, mental health, and people don't even understand what you're talking about. For me, I had the rare privilege of speaking to injection drug users. That was like the starting point for me. And for me, I decided to think differently about why, they have decided to become addicts. I began to ask questions like, why? What could have gone wrong? What could have happened? At what time? Did this person lose a relative? Did this person fail at a project? Did this person, lose huge funds in investment? I decided to think differently. And that helped me, launch out, in driving this conversation. I have also had, many conversations with people who have opened up on, having suffered depression for losing a close relative, having suffered depression for having hormonal imbalance that affected them from getting pregnant. So all these conversations, really has led me to, doing all of this. And I think 5 years ago, we were not having this much conversations on mental health. And I'm glad that, 5 years now, after we're having, as much conversations as we're.
Yeah.
So we're not having as much, but I think it's a lot better.
All right. So I find it interesting that you said you started with injection.
Speaking to injection drug users.
Yeah, drug users, right? So what other, and obviously that's in, looking at that as a case, it's also, there's a mental health thing going on behind those decisions and things like that. So in what other spaces, I know the last events we came for, well done again, the Castle 2021 conference, Mental Health Care for All. So what other spaces do you have this mental health conversation? So what we're talking about this morning, we're talking about a therapy who requires a therapist. I know you do things like suicide ideation. In what other spaces, do we need to be having, mental health conversations?
Okay, I think if I get the question right, we should be having the conversations everywhere, in homes, in churches, in the mosque. We should have, these conversations are in associations, meetings, board meetings. We should be talking about mental health. And why I'm saying this is because, first, we need leaders. We need people who are, taking charge of organizations to champion conversations like this, because when they talk about it, they send a message that this is important. The other day I was discussing with someone, and she, told me about how religious leaders come in for therapy, but they go back to their respective churches or mosque, and they don't talk about, seeking, getting professional help if you ever, find yourself struggling with your mental health, and I think that's like a problem for many people to deal with, because we need to be clear about these issues, and we need, like I said, leaders, influencers, everyone out there, community leaders, leaders of CDAs, community development associations.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into this conversation for today. So, I mean, I shared a story early, and was a therapist that almost committed suicide. There was a suicidal attempt, but people were there, thankfully, to get her out of the whole situation. But she didn't feel like something was wrong with her. In fact, while in the story, she said that she felt fine. She wasn't sad. She wasn't depressed. Her life was good. But the only thing was that she is a therapist, and the situations that she interfaces day in, day out is sad ones that, in fact, after a while, if anybody brings a good story, it felt odd. Like, she was always used to helping people. She was living with certain friends, but there was nothing to help them with. So most times she spends her days at work. Then one day, she was relieving a suicidal attempt that she had heard from one of her patients. And unknowing to her, she was actually doing what the person had told her. She had already tied the rope in the ceiling. She had already stood on its seat and about to hang herself before people came into the office to rescue her. But then when she was having a conversation with another therapist, which, number one, she felt was odd, because, I mean, she's the one that's supposed to help people. She's the one that's supposed to listen to people and all of that. She said she was fine. She's okay. Life is good for her. She has a good job. She has degrees. She's doing great. She's not supposed to be the one that somebody should be listening to. She's meant to be the listener. What was wrong, really?
So if you get to a stage where you think you don't have a need to speak to anyone because you are a professional, then that's the beginning of the problem.
Okay.
The truth is, okay, for everyone living in Nigeria, you won't deny the fact that there's stress. An average employee, has to deal with stress, work stress, emotional stress from your boyfriend or your girlfriend, marital issues. These things will stress you out.
And then there's traffic.
And there's traffic. So you can't deny that. So for her, she kept saying she was fine.
She's okay.
She kept saying she was fine.
Yes.
At a point, she moved. She wanted to have friends around, and her friends couldn't relate to her on the level she wanted. They didn't have problems. It seemed like they all had their lives figured out.
They were living fine.
So for her, she realized that she was becoming lonely.
Yeah.
She realized that it was just sad stories that that gives her the vibe, as it may. She realized that she was getting addicted to listening to sad stories. Now, these are signs as well that we should look out for. Sometimes when you get used to a particular way of doing things, you should pay attention to that. Yes, it's your job. You are finding fun. But come on, you need to, have a structured life and see how to, leave the work and then have its work-life balance. For her, she was, really deep into the work. And then at the time, she thought she could use her friends to balance. They were not there because they were not interested.
Relate.
They were not interested.
They call that a sadist because they felt like she didn't have any life outside work, and the only thing that she was concerned about was work and all of that. So at some point when she realized that she couldn't relate with them, she moved her pleasure or her leisure time to the office.
Yeah. It seems to me that she wasn't looking for balance. It seems to me that she found some form of solace, in work. And I think that became the root cause of the problems that she now,
Exactly. So there are times you are really deep into feeling sad or unhappy. It's advised that you take a walk or go for a run or speak to someone you have not spoken to in a while. These are ways people, just manage emotional imbalance. But for her, she resorted to, doing more work, listening to more sad stories.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm sure she knew that she was opening up herself to more issues. So for a therapist, you would understand when you're at risk. So but anyone can, it's like a doctor, a medical doctor who falls sick. He would definitely need to see a doctor.
Another doctor.
So that's
But but there are times whereby, especially when it has to do with professionals, when you know so much, at times where you feel like, okay, so I can do this myself.
Yeah.
So why do I
Self-diagnosis,
need,
self-treatment,
self-treatment
all
and
those
all
kind
of
of
that?
things.
Like, okay, so I can work this out myself. Why do I need other people? And I'm saying this because this conversation is not just for professionals. It's also for everyday people. We have everyday people that feel like they don't need help. They're not therapists, but they are the helper in their friend circle. They are the ones that people would always run to for advice. They always give the best advice. They're the ones that, when there's a problem, they're Mr. or Miss Fix It. They're the ones that when a situation is happening, you're the go-to person, you are the one that will provide the money, you're the one that will provide the idea, you're the one that will provide the solution. You are always providing. But then, they feel like because they are the provider, they don't need you. Look, what it is that you want to tell me, I already have the answer, so why are you helping me? What can be said to this set of people?
So this reminds me of the Why Did I Get Married movie.
Okay.
I don't watch a lot of movies, but I think there was a particular scene in the part 2, that made it evident. There was this character that seemed like the mother for all. She was always churning out at them.
Yes, she was a
but
therapist,
our marriage
Oh, you
didn't
remember the
work.
movie?
I remember
You've
the
seen
movie,
it?
yes.
Okay.
It was,
Why
that
did I-
part was played by Janet Jackson.
I think
Our
Chris Rock
marriage,
was in that movie.
yes, our
Sorry, please
marriage
go ahead.
didn't work.
Yeah.
She churned out the best advice, gave the support to her friends, but she was struggling with her marriage. So sometimes I feel when you can have that grace where you find it easy to give advice, you find it easy to provide solutions to the numerous problems people are facing. But when you are at the stage where you don't have anyone to speak to, then you're also opening yourself up to many issues. Because the truth is we interact with the society, and the society is you and I. One moment I'm having a good time with you, then something happens about money and we have a fight. And I have to go back home to manage that, like, my best friend, my good guy. Now there's money issues. How do we ensure that we don't lose the friendship, and then we still, find this money matter sorted?
Yeah.
Or, it's a relationship that you have invested a lot of, time, money, resources, and it seems like it's going to crash right in front of you. And you're like, you know what, I'm not okay, I have to go. So we all need, people to talk to. Yes, what I see is that there's the fear of speaking to the wrong person. Because, yes, we genuinely want to open up, but who are we opening up to? Who is listening?
Does this person really, does this person really care?
understand?
Yeah, does this person understand? Yeah.
Because understanding is important, and when you speak to the wrong person who will never understand, then you are going to expose, open up more problems.
Will this
So
person judge me?
So I think it's always a case of, fear and not being judged, like you said. So because we have many people who will judge you for appearing weak, for sounding weak. They don't assume that it's life. You can have your down times.
Yeah.
So there are people who go about judging people, and they make it really difficult for people to.
So I want to ask about the role of support systems. Now, before during newspaper review, we were talking about support systems. That is interesting that the support system that we have in the West is quite different from what we know as a support system in a country like Nigeria, like ours, right? So what is the role of, for instance, with this therapist that was dealing with all of these emotions, but we've established that it seemed like she wasn't seeking for balance. What would be the role of a support system, for instance, in this particular case study?
So for her, I think because the character probably is not Nigerian. Let's assume. So if
let's
she,
assume.
yes, if she's from the West, like you said, there's a lot. The government has made a lot of investment on mental health. You find, counselors, access to mental health care or support almost everywhere. Phone lines are available. Just call, speak to. So a lot of investment has been made in that regards. But
Hold on. I want us to go back there a little bit. In this part.
No, he's talking about
No,
Western
Western
countries.
part.
That's-
Okay.
yes.
My husky's a bit a little bit.
What are you talking about?
No. We
let's
all
go.
know that,
Yeah.
We have an issue of support system here, from the family to schools to workplace. And then again, many of us are products of our families, our environments, and if we were abused, there's a likelihood that we look for the next person to frustrate, look for the next person to, take out all of our emotions on, like, I'm feeling bad, I wasn't raised properly. I think you have to feel a bit of that. So it happens in marriages, it happens in the workplace. Some managers in the workplace are not self-aware. They don't even know that they've gone through an abusive upbringing, which is affecting their psyche and how they make decisions. They don't even know those things. So they come with no knowledge of their background. Like, they don't think about it. But you have suffered abuse. You were not properly raised. Maybe you grew up in a dysfunctional home. These issues would have messed with your mental health. And you get to the office, you're like, you know what? I don't feel good. I'm going to ensure that all of you don't feel good.
Yeah.
Whether it's intentional or unintentional, we find people do this a lot.
Yeah.
In marriages, it's the same. Husbands who don't understand, their backgrounds or their experiences, or choose not to own up on these issues, tend to frustrate their partners. And that's why, I would say there's an increase in, broken marriages. I would say that I've spoken to a couple of people who have left their marriages.
Well, a lot of people are getting married at the same time as well. A lot of young people, as I agree with you to an extent on your comments on broken marriages. It seems like, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but it seems like there's been an increase in divorce rates.
Yes.
But I find it interesting that there's been an increase in marriage as well. So a lot of young people are getting married. A lot of 5-year, 7-year relationship and marriages are also ending. So I find that interesting.
I want to say something in this, in that conversation.
Okay.
When you've raised a lot of people are getting married at this age. The reason why you feel that way is you are at the age where your peers are getting married.
Okay.
You see it this way because 5
It's my
years,
reality?
No,
Okay.
hold on. 5 years before now, you were not at that age. Or maybe 10 years, let's do 10. 10 years before now, you were not at that age where young people are getting married as much.
Okay.
But at the moment, your peers are getting married. People around you are getting married. It seems like a lot of people are. So your reality, because I said the same thing too about a week ago. I don't know when you and I were having a conversation about young people are getting married. It's always wedding all the time. That's because at our age now, we are at the conventional marriageable age.
Okay, so I actually saw a research from last year, the pandemic and all of these things. And the research was saying that so early 2021 and late 2020, there were a lot of marriages. And the research was explaining that it seems like people, the pandemic began to make people anxious about the future. Do you understand that we don't know tomorrow?
Let's
Get married. Let's just do it, and because we don't know if we're going to stop breathing tomorrow. Whatever the case is. And I find that interesting.
So again, I won't say, there hasn't been increase and there hasn't been decrease. The truth is, everyone is beginning to seem excited about it. Let's even see what we can achieve. And some people are out there for selfless reasons, for selfish reasons. You find a guy or a girl who thinks, oh, I'm at this age. I think, so I had this friend, I think last year, and she told me, Sheon, I just want to marry. And in 7 months, I don't know how she did the magic.
And she got married.
She got someone, and then she got married. So there are people out there who use people to, to tick off their goals.
The marriage goals.
Yeah, so
the financial goals.
Are they in love? We don't know. Are they genuinely in love? We don't know. Did somebody create an impression? We don't know. So coming back to the separation and the divorce rates, we're beginning to see that many of these marriages were built on false hopes or just having these expectations that this guy is a rich guy, he looks rich. I think I like him, he dresses well, he should be rich. And then when you get married, you realize that he's a broken guy. You don't, like when I say broken, emotionally broken, then financially broke. So, and then you now have to struggle with, the realities. And you see that the love was not really the love. You were attracted to the finance, the supposed rich, wealthy guy. So again, aside from that, there's the, mental health aspect of all of this, which I think that's where people are feeling.
So I want to come back. So now to bring it back to really to the core of the conversation, mental health, I want to talk about reflection. So, earlier on the show, we're talking about, self-awareness. We use words like self-awareness, right? But like I said, you need to check yourself, consistently, so that you are, essentially if there's any change, any little change in maybe the ways you react, if you maybe become a lot more irritable, things like this, you need to check yourself. And, we established that check is usually a reflection. So how can reflection be used as a tool for a person for a stronger and a better mental health?
So I think, that's like so far one of the, best techniques to assess yourself. Because for someone who decides to withdraw from social gatherings, who decides, maybe after the loss of a relative, you're not excited about a lot of things anymore. You need to begin to reflect on, this is who I am now. This is who I was prior to the incident. And, I fell in love 10 years ago and the relationship ended. Afterwards, I don't feel like I can trust anyone with my emotions again. So you begin to reflect on your successes, your failures. And with that, it helps you, understand the realities. Like, okay, this is my struggle. I was raised by a single parent. Okay, I didn't find love.
And acceptance usually follows, isn't it?
Yes, it makes it. So I wasn't loved as a child. My environs as a child there wasn't love. I saw people fight regularly. I saw people, harass people. And then growing up, you're now like, okay, these things that I exhibit, these characters that I exhibit, I think has a link to how I was raised. And then consciously, because you are reflecting, it helps you to now say that, okay, I respond to issues like this because I grew up in this environment. Do I want to continue behaving in this manner? Is it positive? Is it toxic for the people around me? Through reflection, you can begin to say, okay, let me drop this. It doesn't help. There are people who would, argue with you all morning, all day. You don't know why. Maybe they grew up, seeing dad and mom argue all day, and that is now in their DNA. Argue. And there are people who would, pick a fight over petty issues. Now, don't judge them. Like my friend would say, if you were raised by a single parent or your mom, there's a likelihood that you will have female tendencies.
Interesting.
And when you have female tendencies as a guy, it could be a problem in the society. Because you hear things like, man up now, you be man. Why do you fight over? Why are you complaining? Why men don't complain? And you're like, no, I want to express myself. So when those kind of when you get those kind of responses, then you might just suffer from, how do I put it now? From, You know, people expect you to behave in a certain way, but this is you. Your upbringing has led you to being this person. You might be a work in progress, but nobody sees that. What they see is, you know, you react to things in a way that you were raised. So again, when we reflect over many things, we're in a better position to have a better mental health.
Yeah.
Why do I do this? Why do I respond to this? Do I go out with my friends because I like to? Or it's peer pressure? Do I, you know, sometimes I ask myself, okay, why are you even taking a ride or something? And I say, I'm not talking finance. I'm not trying to impress anyone here. Because all I talk about is mental health. I'm not here to talk finance. So sometimes wearing the suit and the ties might just seem like you're projecting a successful guy.
Or a particular image. Is not what it is. Yeah.
And somebody might see you out there and then it's like, you know, this guy is suit and boy is looking no, that's don't let's have issues on that.
Yeah.
I am a mental health advocate and that's what I talk about. So sometimes we need to begin to reflect on what would put us in a very stable state, because we matter individually above every other person.
Okay, so I want us to go back to the conversation on support system for a bit. Now, we always, in this age and time, especially last year, 2019, and this year, we talk about mental health. But when we talk about it in light of people that suffer from depression and other illnesses, and you know, people that are going through something. But then we don't talk about the support system's mental health. Like, I have never attended a conference where the conversation is on the support system. I'm putting it to you. It's so that you can think about it.
That's a challenge.
It's a challenge, so you can think about it in your next conference.
Yeah.
I have never heard anyone sit you down and talk about the other person that is listening. This is the first time I'm reading a story where a therapist is talking about their own situation. Most times I'm always hearing about the person that was depressed or the person that was committing suicide. So how about the support system? What then happens? There's something I want to say. So Ali and I were having a conversation one time on mental health, and I said that sometimes, because I have been a support system to people, and sometimes I realize that sometimes people that go through certain situations are not as nice as they expect other people to be. So you expect that, you know, because you are going through something, you're having an illness, you're depressed, you're sad, you expect that, you know, people are kind to you. You expect that people are nice to you, people are sweet to you. But you, as the person that is going through something, you are not kind to your support system. You are not nice to your support system. You are not accommodating to your support system. You're probably always talking them down, always mean. I please correct me if I'm wrong. At times where I've read stories where, you know, somebody that is suicidal has manipulated their support system that if you don't do this, I will kill myself. Or if you don't, you know, if you're not there for me, I would drink this poison. And then it leaves the support system in a terrible situation, like, what do I do? So what can the support system do? Who is to help the support system? How can they leave a situation? Because I'm saying this because I've heard stories. I've seen people that have left friendships or have left, and, you know, they fought very deeply before they left that friendship because, you know, they know this person needs help and they want to give help. But over time, the help that they are giving has become
It's draining.
It's draining. That's thank you. The word it is draining them. Their health is deteriorating day by day because they themselves now need help. And when they go to get help, the help that they are getting is telling them that that support system that you are doing is not good for you. So what do they do?
It's a not so complex situation, like a fully charged phone. You know, you have the ability to do a whole lot for a few hours, and then when it gets to 10%, you begin to worry. At 15%, your phone notifies you know that you need to charge this phone. So this is it. First, we have to establish that we live in country where many Nigerians are not great support systems. They won't be. Again, who knows if they had, an abusive background. We don't know where many people are coming from. So we're all here today having this conversation, and it's all smiles. You don't know where I'm coming from. I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where you're coming from. You might have a need, and I'll respond, perfectly. And I might have a need, you won't respond perfectly. Now, it's not in my space to judge you. I think I need to understand where you're coming. Were you raised in a way that you can, genuinely offer support, or you never found that? So again, I'll talk about relations. There are some relationships that you find the guy to be a perfect guy for the babe, and the babe is not the perfect babe, so to say, for the guy, but they have to work things out.
Yeah.
So someone along the way is improving by the virtue of dialogue, and someone else is not improving by the virtue of being stubborn.
Right. Interesting.
So there are people who, for me, I've been tagging myself the help junkie, and that's because I respond to issues that I feel requires support naturally.
Okay.
I drive conversations that I feel. So after speaking to injection drug users, I've never suffered from mental illness. I'm not a drug addict. I wasn't depressed. I've never attempted suicide. But here I am. Someone says, why you carry this mental health matter for head? It's just because I see that if people don't talk about it, there are other people out there who are suffering from. So I feel that individually we need to assess, again, our backgrounds. Why do I respond this way? Yes, not having expectations would also help us. You can offer help and not get help from who you have offered help to.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, really quickly, I want to ask about supports, right? Just to expand the question that Bolade asked. And I want to make a statement. I want to say that I think that empathy, the expression of empathy is cultural. Actually, I think that empathy is a humane thing that we all understand or that we ought to understand as human beings. But I think the expression is cultural. And so, for instance, the way the West would express empathy to one another, I think it's quite different from the way we in Nigeria or Africans express empathy to one another. So, for instance, a mother's solution to a child who doesn't want to talk about what that child is going through might be, let me cook for you. Do you understand? Let me give you food. Just maybe sleep and eat and shower and you'll be okay. And that is what she's able to give. Do you understand? So, given the fact that empathy, the expression of empathy, can be cultural, is there something, is it a cultural problem? When we're assessing the support system that we have in Nigeria, because you said that, our support system is not really. So is it a cultural problem, or what is it? What is it really? What's going on?
So you can't take away culture from, culture is a way of life. You can't take that out.
Right.
When we are talking mental health and talking about, support systems. And that's because if you are a Yoruba raised child, there are certain things, don't ever say, when an elder is talking to you, don't respond.
Don't look them in the
Don't
eye.
look them in the eyes, just, even when they are wrong.
Yeah.
You hear things like, Aman Fiagba, like, if I'm older than you, I literally can do anything and go scot-free. And you're like, why should that be happening? We should have a conversation. If you are hurting me, I should tell you. So many of us, were raised in a way that, and then again, it's culture. Respect. When you are being abused, respect. When you are being insulted, respect.
The elder is always right.
The elder is, we go to schools and then teachers are talking down on you. They are saying awful things about your size, killing your self-esteem, respect, but now the conversation is spinning because people are like, this support system is not helping my mental health. It's either I cut you off or
Yeah.
we don't, or you have to understand what I
is true.
want.
Yeah.
So that's why, it's a lot easier now on WhatsApp. Just block people from seeing your status. Block your,
True.
because
Yeah.
you want that peace of mind. Your wellness is everything to you. And so why people don't give you the kind of support you need again can be tied to culture. There are people who they'll just keep preaching humility, respect, irrespective of how the other party feels.
Yeah.
Be submissive, be this, be that, and then we're not having conversations about why the men are randy, why the women are not randy, why they have to pay for the what's that word now? The mistakes men have made.
Right.
Why the women have to be the humble ones? Why the men have to, so again, financially, men are supposed to be like the alpha and omega. And that is tearing people apart. Again, because as couples, you
these are
can
all
have that
cultural
conversation. Yes, you can
conversations,
have that
aren't they?
conversation
Yeah.
like, let's pay these bills together. It's choking. If I become a billionaire, I can buy you everything.
Yeah, it's
but
very
you
interesting.
can't have that conversation
Yeah.
because your culture says, Oma Shebi Okorin, you have to be a man.
Yeah.
And being a man is using your money, your everything to
Providing.
Okay, so you know what? We have to wrap this
Yes.
up, but there's so many things to talk about, especially on support system,
Yeah.
on culture, on patriarchy,
Yeah.
on women affairs, on feminism, on
Even marriages.
marriages,
Yeah,
on parenting and maternal. There's so many conversations and all of that, but we will definitely have you again on the show to break it down because, in
Yeah.
fact, I have a conversation on infantilization of the society. This part, is part where there is now the mental health conversation, but we now walk on eggshells. We cannot express ourselves to people anymore. And in fact, the way that we do it has to be checked several times. And then there is now this conversation on, okay, so this is how I see it, and that's it. And then you're hurting my mental health, but you're doing the wrong thing. You don't know how to now talk to people that, okay, so you are going astray. There's a problem with you. But you know what? We will not get into it today, but we'll get into it some other time and break it down just to hear your own view. This has been an interesting one. Thank you so much.
It's always, any angle we pick mental health conversations from would always be interesting because they are real life issues, real time. You and I, we're smiling now, but who knows?
What is happening
If the babe
within
just
me?
broke my heart and I have
You
because this is like the longest I've talked about relationships, and I don't know why.
I'll give you a hug after the show. Don't worry. A manly hug. Really tight hug.
Ade, okay. But thank you so much,
Thank you very
Dosumu,
much,
for
Thank you.
joining us
Thank
this
you for having
morning.
me.
We've been having an insightful conversation on mental health with our friend Sheo Dosumu. He is a mental health advocate, and in all, we've talked about being self-aware and reflecting, find out why you're behaving the way that you're behaving. There might be a root cause. Is it because you've been hurt as a child? Is it because you did not get attention? Is it because you are from a different background from the people that you're associating with? Why are you having such pressure and pain? We always advise professional help. It is important that if you're feeling a certain way or your behavior has changed, please seek professional help. Also, support system is so important, but are you the right support system, or are you the one hurting the other person? More on mental health conversations some other time, so you have to keep a date with us on Tea or Coffee.